Pension system reform for civil servants has finally passed in a productive National Assembly session some 7 months after the bill was submitted. A 40-something man who showed symptoms of MERS left for China, and health authorities are coming under fire for their management of the virus. And President Geunhye held summit talks with President of Uzbekistan, Islam Karimov, in Seoul, agreeing to push for large-scale economic projects between the two countries. Hello and welcome to News Today on KBS World. It's Friday, May 29th. I'm Luke Clary. A bill to reform the deficit-ridden pension system for civil servants has finally passed at the National Assembly, some 7 months since the bill was submitted. Rival parties also approved a revision to the National Assembly Act, which was a last-minute sticking point, and processed 57 other bills referred to the Assembly plenary session.
가결되었음을 선포합니다.
The Civil Service Pension Reform Bill, which calls for public employees to pay more and receive less in their pensions, has finally passed the Parliament. The passage comes 7 months after the bill was first submitted to the National Assembly. The plenary began at 3 a.m. with the Assembly session extended by 1 day. Rival parties also approved the resolution to form a special committee tasked with strengthening public pension schemes, as well as a related bill on forming a social dialogue channel for the same purpose. A revision to the National Assembly Act also passed the session. Under the revised act, the Assembly can ask for changes when administrative legislation does not conform to the cause and aim of the law. In this case, administrative agencies must abide by the request. 57 other bills were also passed in the early hours of Friday, including a special law aimed at easing the payment burden of college student loans and the revised National Health Promotion Act, mandating cigarette packs to include images of health warnings.
A 40-something man who showed symptoms similar to those of MERS has been confirmed to have left for China. He developed the symptoms after coming into direct contact with the first MERS patient, and concerns are being raised that people close to the man might have been affected too. Meanwhile, health authorities have come under fire for their management.
The son of a man who was hospitalized in the same room with the first MERS patient stayed in the room for about 4 hours when he visited his father on May 16th. His father and elder sister, who was nursing the father, have both been infected with MERS. Health authorities failed to isolate the man even though he had close contact with his infected father. 3 days after visiting his father, the man suffered a high fever and twice sought medical attention. He even notified his doctor of the fact that he had been in direct contact with a MERS patient, but the hospital failed to report his case to health authorities. On May 26th, the man went on a business trip to China.
역학조사를 하는 과정 중에서 그 따님에 대한 것만 주목을 하고 아드님에 대한 것들, 다른 가족이 있는 거에 대한 주목을 저희가 못했고.
The government has notified China of this and is trying to find out who among the man's 346 co-workers and passengers who took the same flight with him had been in direct contact. The man is currently receiving medical treatment in isolation in China. The exact diagnosis will likely be made on May 29th.
The Korean government believes that in order to increase youth employment, reducing wages for older workers in exchange for a guarantee of an extended retirement age is inevitable. Well, here are the key points that the government is pushing on this issue.
When the retirement age is extended to 60 years old from next year, the government forecasts that youth employment will drop even further. The government has consistently called for reducing wages for those near the retirement age under what's called the wage peak system, so that the saved money can be used to create more jobs for younger people. The government cites data showing workplaces that adopted the wage peak rule hired more youths at a rate of 50.6% last year, compared to 43.9% for workplaces that did not yet introduce the wage peak system. Fixing the wage system in accordance with the retirement age extension bill being passed was also discussed during trilateral negotiations between labor, management, and government representatives. But discussions fell apart. The government also planned to announce during a public hearing its intention to draft guidelines allowing firms to introduce the wage peak rule without consent of the labor union. For this, the government cited a past ruling by the Supreme Court stating that in cases involving a reasonable and socially accepted idea, employment regulations can be changed by management without union consent, even if it may be a disadvantage to some workers. The government says it's ironic for the labor circle to protest the retirement age extension as it benefits workers. It said it will finalize detailed guidelines on the retirement age dispute by next month.
Labor groups strongly oppose the proposed wage peak system. They're saying that the system will not solve the problem of youth unemployment and will only make ordinary workers' lives harder.
The hearing that the government organized ahead of the implementation of the wage peak system was eventually canceled as labor union members staged the protest when the Minister of Employment and Labor entered the venue of the hearing. Labor circles say that the government has overstepped its authority by setting guidelines on an issue that should be freely discussed by labor and management. They added that the wage peak system will only result in wage cuts amid the already desperate situation for workers as they struggle to keep their jobs until the retirement age, and that there is no guarantee that the money subtracted from their wages will be spent to hire young people.
일부분으로 남겨두고 투자는 하지 않고 그 임금을 뺏어서 청년들에게 일자리를 준다는 것은 그것은 전혀 맞지 않다고 생각합니다.
The guidelines proposed by the government are not legally binding. If the conflict over the new employment regulations turns into a legal battle, confusion at workplaces will likely continue regardless of the victor. That's why many are calling for the labor, management, and government sectors to come up with a solution as soon as possible.
President Park Geun-hye held summit talks with President of Uzbekistan, Islam Karimov, in Seoul on Thursday, and the two leaders agreed to push for large-scale economic projects between the two countries.
Uzbek President Islam Karimov is in Korea for a state visit. President Park Geun-hye and President Karimov held a summit agreeing to pursue major economic projects combining Uzbekistan's natural resources and Korea's capital and technology.
지난 3월 대선 이후에 첫 공식 해외 방문국으로 또 거기다가 단독 방문으로 한국에 오신 것을 매우 뜻깊게 생각합니다.
More Korean firms will also take part in a massive infrastructure development project in the Central Asian nation, in which the Uzbek government will invest $54 billion over the next 5 years. The two sides also signed a memorandum of understanding on Korean participation in a $4.5 billion project aimed to produce olefin, a construction material made from methanol. The two sides will also closely cooperate to win construction orders for power plants in Tarakhergan and other areas in Uzbekistan worth about $2 billion combined. Seoul and Tashkent also agreed to improve the mutual investment environment through ways such as mutually recognizing each country's driver's licenses. Cooperation in high added value fields such as information and communications technology and health and medicine will also be strengthened.
Authorities have apprehended a group of people who bought loaned and stolen cars, as well as cars involved in hit-and-run accidents at cheap prices, and smuggled them to Russia, capitalizing on loopholes in the inspection of exported cars.
A crane removes a truck from a Russia-bound ship that had to return to the port. The truck was almost smuggled without being reported to customs authorities. A group of 13 people, including a 47-year-old man surnamed Kang, set up a bogus car rental firm to buy loaned and stolen cars at cheap prices and sell them in Russia for up to 3 times as much. They have sold approximately 190 such vehicles for a total of over $9 million. Police estimated damages sustained by financial companies that provided loans for smuggled mortgaged cars at over $8 million.
대부차라든지 그렇게 유통이 되고 그래가지고 이게 저희가 대금이라든지 이런 부분을 갖다가 받지를 못하게 되면은 금융사가 자체적으로 손실 처리해서
The perpetrators paid roughly $2,700 to $4,500 to brokers specializing in smuggling in order to forge export-related documents. They then bribed shipping companies by paying them up to $1,800 per vehicle to load the stolen cars onto ships. Police and customs authorities have decided to step up their crackdown on smuggling by conducting spot inspections of used cars loaded onto foreign trade vessels and intensifying the surveillance of shipment procedures.
It's only May, but temperatures have soared above 30 degrees Celsius, resembling the middle of the summer. Here's how Koreans are coping with the early heat wave.
Blinding sunlight showers through the leaves. People dressed in light summer clothes walk in the shade cast by a stone wall, each holding an ice-cold drink. Anywhere there's shade is occupied by people looking for an escape from the searing heat.
걷기에는 너무 더운 날씨여서 좀 앉아가지고 그늘진 곳에서 좀 쉬고 있었어요.
Some people are drawn to places with water, like this stream, so they can play in it. These students forget about the heat, at least for now, by soaking their feet and spraying each other with water.
애들하고 다 같이 놀아서 더 좋고요. 시원해서 더 좋아요. 여기 그늘도 졌는데 여기 물장구까지 치니까 더 좋아요.
Even animals welcome the cool, refreshing water to find some relief from the heat. These elephants can't seem to turn away from a caretaker, spraying them with water. People should take special care to protect themselves from the sun's ultraviolet rays when such blazing heat waves strike for an extended period of time.
The incomparable Ryu Seung-bum will be returning to the big screen with his first new film in 2 years. Coming up is today's showbiz news.
Actor Ryu Seung-bum returns to the big screen 2 years after appearing in the thriller Berlin. His comeback film is Intimate Enemies, directed by Im Sang-soo. Playing the male lead Jinwoo, Ryu demonstrates his unique, energetic charm opposite his co-star, actress Go Geunhye. In the movie, a young couple who end up with a mysterious bag of money decide to become real villains and set off on an unstoppable adventure. Singer-songwriter Chang Duk and her older brother Chang Hyun died one after another in 1990. The lives and music of these brother and sister artists are revived 25 years after their deaths. Singers Park Seung-hwa and Kim Hee-jin perform a remake of the late duo's debut song, An Innocent Child. Urban Zacapa, an R&B trio, has released a new mini-album. The trio's latest album contains songs that depart from their characteristically emotional ballads.
With the weather getting warmer, many people go fishing, and these days, more and more fishing enthusiasts bring their families on their outings. Today, we introduce good, unique ways for both adults and children to enjoy fishing. Let's take a look. This is a reservoir in Geunhye province. A toy-like boat draws the attention of fishermen. A closer look at the boat reveals that it carries a fish at its tail.
무선 조종 낚시 보트인데요. 저걸로 이제 물가에 띄워가지고 낚시를 하고 있습니다.
The boat is equipped with a fishing pole and a float to catch fish. The fisher remote controls the fishing pole to go in any direction. The boat can freely move within a range of 200 meters to catch fish. It is easy to operate the fish-catching boat so both parents and their children can have fun fishing together. Thanks to its capability to maintain buoyancy, the fishing boat is not turned over easily, even if it catches and brings in a heavy fish.
장비도 많이 필요 없고 그냥 손으로 이렇게 할 수 있으니까 애기들하고 하기엔 너무 좋은 것 같아요.
This is a highway rest area where drivers stop by to take a brief break from their long drives. Here, anyone can borrow fishing poles for free after filling out a simple application.
수연에 저희가 훌륭한 금강이 흐르고 있고요. 그 금강에서 낚시를 할 수 있는 공간이 충분히 이루어져 있기 때문에 고객님들한테 무료로 낚시를 대여를 해드리고 있습니다.
They take a seat and cast their lines into the water.
잡았어. 와, 신기하다.
This restaurant gives a 30% discount to customers who catch fish from its water tank. Diners look more satisfied and delighted over a dish of fish they caught by themselves. So the fishing is always the most popular among diners at this restaurant.
잡는 것도 좋아하고 가족끼리 오면 되게 재밌어요.
Try going fishing with your family for special, unforgettable experiences and memories. And now let's take a look at the markets, followed by the world weather. And that's it for this edition of News Today. Thanks for being with us, and we'll see you again on Monday. Have a great weekend. Goodbye.